see. Ms. Hopkins,
Here.
Ms. Hoff.
Present.
Okay, and for the first time of this school year, I will go through the student representatives. Ms. Tong,
Here.
present. I did see her earlier. Mr. Vandy.
He
Okay.
won't be here.
Okay, no problem. And Mohammed Bangora.
Here.
Got the name right. Good. Awesome. Okay.
Welcome, Mohammed. We'll get you sworn in right after this.
Okay.
My board report, please. Thank you, Mr. Denenza. September good news. First, breakfast and lunch meal distribution is available at all schools, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You just have to be school age, 5 to 18. You do not have to attend our schools. You do not have to go to the school that you attend to get your lunches. Just go to your closest school and we will happily feed you. On Mondays, you'll get 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches. Same on Wednesdays. And on Fridays, you'll get 1 of each. So please take advantage and come get some food. Free eyeglass care. This is no surprise. Thank you, PCCY. Give kids sight day. You call and make an appointment. It's a virtual event. They'll do virtual vision screenings, and they'll help you with the eyeglasses for young people. Eyeglasses are super expensive, so please take advantage of this opportunity. Virtual college fair, Wednesday, October 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. We'll have more information coming, but if you're just want to know, contact your guidance counselor for more information. And this is 9th through 12th. If you have a school-related question, check out our Family Resource Center, williamppennsd.org, family-resource-center. It's right on the index page too. There's a lot of good information there. So start there if you have any questions. That's it. So new food share box program starts this Thursday. It's at Park Lane. We'll do the 4 Thursdays in October so far. That's what we know. Please come. You do not have to be school age. You can be any age. Senior citizens, please come. It's Thursday, 8 to 11 in the Park Lane parking lot. This is a cold delivery, so we will be in a refrigerated truck. So please come on out and help yourself and help your community. I want to thank Mr. Robert Wright for his leadership on the Personnel Committee. He has stepped down as chair of that committee to focus on his health. He is still a full member of our school board, but I wanted to take this moment to thank him for his leadership on personnel. Next upcoming meetings, Wednesday, October 7th at 4:30 is the School Climate Subcommittee. Wednesday, October 7th is the Education Committee meeting. That's at 6:30. Committee of the Whole meeting is Monday, October 19th at 6:30. And the business meeting is Monday, October 26th at 6:30. As you all know, my phone number and my email are right there. Please reach out. We want to be partners in education in our communities, so please reach out for any little thing. Thank you for steering today, Mr. Denenza. Next, Mohammed, Mr. Bangora, we're going to do an oath. I've not done one virtually, so can you turn on your camera for me, Mr. Bangora?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, thank you. Nice to meet you virtually.
All right.
All right, so you just repeat after me. I'm Mohammed Bangora.
I, Mohammed Bangora,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge my duties
and I will discharge my duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Fantastic. Welcome to the school board, Mr. Bangura. Congratulations. We're thrilled to have you. And you'll speak down below if you choose to do so. I will come to the office tomorrow to sign your oath, and you'll be all official. Dr. Becoats, superintendent's report, please.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
You're muted, sir.
Good evening, board members, and good evening to all of our attendees. I believe we have 175 of them, and I want to say thank you very much for joining us. There are three things I want to highlight this evening. I'm first going to start off with COVID-19. Our district developed protocols and procedures for all staff to follow related to COVID-19. The guidelines were developed in conjunction with the Chester County Health Department guidelines and their most recent updates. We have provided steppers, if you will, or an easy to use guide so that persons or individuals would know what steps to take in the event action needed to be taken related to COVID-19. About 2 weeks ago, we had to utilize these protocols to guide our actions related to COVID-19. As we began to implement the procedures, it was evident to me that an effective process had been developed in conjunction with the Chester County Health Department. The following week, we had to also utilize these protocols again based upon further conversations with staff members. This time, I was a part of the exposed group and had to quarantine. My experience with this unsettling encounter overall was good. It was evident to me again that the protocols work when they are followed. The health department communicated with me in a timely fashion. Further communication continues to this date, and I did have the opportunity to take my second COVID-19 test on this past Sunday, and the results were negative. I share my experience to ensure the school community that we have a process and protocols in place that were developed in conjunction with the Chester County Health Department. I learned through this process that one must remain calm, follow the process, and exercise patience. The next item I want to address for the board and our community is, most of you are probably aware that the school district has held sessions in regard to race. And so these sessions are being held with students in grades 7 through 12. And we are providing these sessions for students to engage in a conversation about race and the implications of what is happening in our society today. I had the opportunity to listen in to some of our young people this past week. It was both inspiring, troubling, as well as informative. I want to encourage our staff and anyone who comes in contact with our students to first listen. And I'm asking that we as adults listen when our students speak. They are telling us something. Do not discount the message or the messenger. One student mentioned the importance of us working together as a community to address social injustice. One comment made by a young lady during the last session was that she felt as though that young ladies do not matter as a result of the most recent outcome of the Breonna Taylor case. So I pause this evening to reassure our young ladies that yes, you are gifted, you have abilities, and that you have the ability to be successful and that your dreams can be realized. The adults in this district, in my opinion, should be here to support and to serve you in order for you to be successful. I share with you this evening that I look forward to working with you and the adults in this district to ensure your success. We see you, I see you, and I'm listening. And I want you to know that in this district, we are here to support you as our young people. Those are the two items I wanted to share this evening, one related to COVID-19, second one related to race. And I will conclude with the reopening update that I wanted to provide to the board. So if we would pull up the presentation, that would be great. And I will walk through this for board members as well as for our larger community. So the next slide highlights for you again what the board approved as related to online virtual instruction. During this meeting time, the board did approve for us to begin virtual instruction on September the 14th, 2020. We also indicated that the administration would continue to work with local health experts in order to review the data related to COVID-19. And that based upon that data, that an online virtual model should be effective until the end of the first quarter, and that updates will be provided every 4 weeks. So tonight we come with another update to the board as of September the 25th, which I believe was last Friday. So if we click on the monitoring and protecting our progress, in this document, what you will see that the county has provided is information related to the incidents, meaning the percentage of incidents that we have as it relates to COVID-19 per 100,000 residents. And so what you will find is that the top row where it says week 1 most current, that would be as of last week. So what you find is the incident rate is decreasing after you look at from week 4 to week 1, and that is for Delaware County. When you actually scroll down on this page, what you find is also for Delaware County, and this is the percent positivity rate, meaning the percent of people who are testing positive. What you will find is that the percentages have decreased since week 3, with week 1 again being the most current as of last Friday. So if we scroll back up, we can dig a little bit deeper into this data and click on the public school district incidence rates. And what you will find is the following. For the William Penn School District, what we are experiencing is that with the positive test count, we see that it is increasing. Week 1, it's at 19. The week before it was 13. The week prior to that, it's 10. And the week prior to that is 21. So we did see a decline from week 4 to week 3, a slight increase from week 3 to week 2, and an increase from week 2 to week 1. And that's looking at the positive test count. If you stay on that same row and we look at the incidence rate per 100,000, you will find that the percentage has increased from the last week from 30.86 to 45.1. And then you'll see that we did have a slight increase from week 3 to week 2 and a significant decline from week 4 to week 2. So although the county rates are decreasing, we're seeing something somewhat similar and somewhat different, if you will, for the actual area in which the William Penn School District supports. So if we go back to our presentation, that's information related to our current trends. And so in alignment with the recommendation that we made, I believe in August, we wanted to make sure that we came to the board with a recommendation for a phase-in plan. One of the things I want to share with the board and with the community is that this is a recommendation. With this recommendation, I am also recommending that we continue to come back to the board. And as the data continues to change, we will then make the necessary modifications or updates to our Board of Education. Under no uncertain terms are we expecting for students to return to in-class instruction or staff if the data dictates otherwise. So I want to make sure that I state that very clearly before we go to the actual plan, if you will, or the recommendation. So if we click on virtual to hybrid phase transition, what you will find is the following recommendation. And so I want to say that this is somewhat different than what we shared with the board this past Monday at the Committee of the Whole. And you may be asking yourself, why is that? And it's different because we've received feedback. We've listened to information from principals, information from staff members, And so what we wanted to do was, if you will, go a little bit slower as we transition back. So students who are receiving services through the special education department, specifically our low incidence students, we want to have them return during the week of October the 19th. And this is a very small number of students, if you will. I believe the number of students we're looking at are about 126 students across 5 schools. Those 5 schools would be Alden, Evans, Ardmore, Penwood Middle School, and Penwood High School. And that would be the week that those students would return in this proposed recommendation. During the week of November the 2nd, and you'll note that there is a 2-week window in between those 2 dates, because we want to make sure that we are addressing issues, concerns. If things are working well, we're learning from those things before we bring in the next population. So the week of November the 2nd, we're looking at kindergarten through 3rd grade, as well as grades 7 and 8, keeping in mind that these populations obviously are in different buildings, and so we could bring them back during the same time. Then we would go 2 additional weeks, and the week of November the 16th, we would bring in grades 4th through 6, as well as grades 9 through 12. The thinking with this scenario is that we still want to ensure that our families remain together to the greatest extent possible. And if you will scroll down a little bit more on this document, we do highlight some of the logic that we have utilized. And again, trying to make sure that we bring back the students who need the greatest amount of support first. Again, this is a phase-in approach. It does not happen all at once. We're also recommending that with this phase-in transition, that we would return to our normal operating schedule for schools. This is being recommended primarily because our transportation department can support this implementation phase-in approach if we return to our normal hours. So that's what you will see here in item 5 under the logic area. If you go to the right and scroll up just a tad bit, other considerations that we took into account were transportation. We're also wanting to ensure that siblings stay together to the greatest extent possible. So we will be looking at that data as well. And then the third item speaks to identifying options for previously committed K through 6 cyber applicants. Again, I apologize for the challenge we had with supporting K-6 initially. We have posted, if you will, 3 teacher positions, and we were able to do that because we have received some additional funding to support us in this arena. And so once those positions are filled, we will, the plan is to offer K through 6 for cyber. And then also the fourth consideration is we realize that some families may want to have the virtual option who will not take advantage of in-person learning. So that would look similar to a student being at home, being supported by the teacher in a remote setting while the teacher is in the classroom. What I would say to you is that at the secondary level, that would be the expectation, meaning grades 7 through 12. And at the elementary level, we would try to do that to the greatest extent possible, realizing that in some of your lower grades, that is going to be challenging, but we would be working with families accordingly, informing them of how the model will actually be implemented if they wanted to have the all virtual option and not send their students into the school building, and if cyber was not an option as well. So I just wanted to highlight those other considerations that are a part of this recommendation. So let's go back to the actual presentation and go to the next slide. Some of the other things that we are doing as it specifically relates to our low incidence students, there are going to be plastic bags and storage containers for students so that we can limit the amount of, if you will, hand touching by different individuals. Obviously, we're going to observe social distancing. And with the model does take into account for our low incidence students an AV day. We have also looked at the option of providing desk barriers, and this would potentially be for all students in all classrooms. And so we wanted to just share with you a picture of what this would look like. So you would have a student sitting at a desk. And as you can see, this is a clear see-through protector or partition. And so this is what would be available and could be on desk so that we would limit the spread. Masks are still going to be required, but this is just another precaution that we would be taking as it relates to providing safety. And again, everyone would be required to wear masks. We're also providing shields and gowns for teachers who are supporting low incidence students. And students would also continue to be supported by instructional assistants as well as personal care assistants. So this is the current thinking and part of the recommendation for our low incidence population of students who would return to school in mid-October. So on the next slide, we just provide further information, if you will, on the model of implementation. And so there is something that's a little different. Here we are recommending an ABC day or model, and we're doing that to ensure that we are able to implement 6 feet distancing in all situations. We've basically adjusted, if you will, our current calendar to identify for individuals what day is the A day, the B day, and the C day. What we are also working toward with our school principals is that we will be working with them to ensure that we've identified every student. Every student will have, if you will, a letter associated with them, and that information will be communicated with families within 7 to 10 days after the board takes action on the plan. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that we have time between now and the time that the plan would be implemented is to make sure that we effectively communicate with families. We, again, are going to make sure that attendance is a priority for us, and we also want to make sure that there is family cohesiveness as a part of our planning efforts. Let's click on the calendar, if we would, so I can just highlight that for those who may not have had an opportunity to actually look at this document. So if you will, this document is color-coded. And so the colors on each day represent what group of students would actually come in. So on the A day on Mondays, you do have A students coming in for in-person learning. On Tuesday, B students would come in for in-person learning. On Wednesday, all students would be taught asynchronous learning, or through the asynchronous method. Students would be completing assignments. And then on Thursday, all students are participating in live virtual instruction with a teacher. So all students would have the ability to have instruction provided by a teacher. And then on Friday, that would be your C day. So with this model, what you will see is that, can you keep the lines there for me, please, so that families can see the ABC? Thank you. Students are basically in school. If you're an A student, you're in school 1 day out of the week. You're still being taught on Thursday through virtual learning. And then you also still have asynchronous activities that you are completing on Wednesday. We feel as though that this model definitely limits the amount of exposure to the greatest extent that we would be able to do that by providing students with this support. So although they're only in school for 1 day of the week, they are getting direct instruction on their specified day, either A, B, or C, along with Thursday being all students participate in live virtual learning. And then on Wednesday, it's asynchronous learning as well. So this information is available, I believe, in the chat, and it's on our website. So the next slide highlights for us just information in reference to athletics. As most of you know, we are a part of the Del Val League. And so this is the, if you click on that link, this is the announcement that the Del Val League provided. And so we are not moving forward with sports for this fall. And we're primarily doing that out of a preponderance of safety. And we will remain, if you will, close or shut down for this particular season. And we will definitely come back and continue to review what options we may have with the PIAA as it relates to a fall season at a alternate time. So the next slide basically summarizes, if you will, the recommendation, and it is to implement a phased-in process for students. We highlight here what group of students would come in on October the 19th, followed by students in grades K through 3 and 7 and 8 on November the 2nd. And then on November the 16th, we would have grades 4 through 6 and students in grades 9 through 12. We feel as though that this is the best approach that we could implement with effectively implementing, if you will, the safety guidelines as outlined by the Chester County Health Department. And so what are some of the next steps? On the next slide, we highlight some of these for you. I just want to say that this list is not exhaustive. Some of these items I have mentioned. And so what I want to do is just make sure that the items I have not mentioned, I'll highlight. So we have a plan, and obviously we will continue to be doing work as it relates to implementing this, this proposed recommendation. We will be making sure that all supplies and materials are in place the Wednesday prior to students returning in person. We are also outfitting the classrooms that we have in our district to further support our teachers in terms of delivering instruction from the classroom. So we're looking at about 285 classrooms that would be outfitted with technologies such as a webcam and other resources that they would use to better be able to work with students in a remote environment. We're continuing to communicate with all of our families, and we will definitely follow up with our cyber confirmed applicants based upon the outcome of the hiring of those teaching staff. And then we will continue to support grab and go meals, and there will be a specified schedule for that as we continue or as we get closer to the actual implementation. Board of Directors, that concludes my comments for tonight. And I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Huff.
Thank you, Dr. B. Coates. Any school board directors have any questions on any part of Dr. B. Coates' presentation? Mr. Tong?
So I have some questions. So one of the questions is, if a family decides that they can't come in on one of those in-person days because of compromised health situations at the home life or things of that nature or something like that, what are our contingency plans for those students? Are they able to continue remotely, or how would they attend?
They would be able to log into the actual classroom. I would say to you that we know that in some classrooms for elementary students, especially at the lower grades, that might be a challenge. And so it could look something like a family logging in, participating in morning meeting with the teacher, and then getting the assignments that they would need to complete for that actual day.
Okay. And then the other component with that is, how would attendance be taken for that? Would they, because they're logged in online, they would be marked present?
That would be part of it. And what we are currently doing is students need to complete the assignments that were provided, or at least attempt to complete the assignments. And so we're looking at that information to determine whether or not students were present. And we would utilize that same approach in the scenario that you outlined.
Thank you.
Any other board members? I will get to participants under public comments regarding agenda items. So just keep the information flowing in the chat. All right, hearing no other questions from school board directors, please, school board directors, if at any time you can ask again during public comment, whatever you like. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
Second.
Any questions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the business meeting of August 24th, 2020?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions on the minutes from the business meeting of August 24th? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? All right, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Education Committee meeting of September 9th, 2020?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions on those minutes from September 9th? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone against? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the committee meeting of the whole, September 21st, 2020?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Well, any questions on those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone against? Okay, we've missed you, students. Remarks by student representatives, Ms. Tan?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Ms. Tan.
It is great to be back in the school year. I hope everyone has had a great first couple weeks back. I would like to thank the board, staff, teachers, and all students for persevering through this pandemic. Today I wanted to ask, if we were to go back to school, will sports and clubs immediately go back to the way they were before, or will there be a delay, such as different clubs meet virtually and others meet in person and then switch?
Dr. B. Coates?
Sure. So we will be continuing with the clubs and those activities in a virtual setting. The goal will be for students to come to school, complete the educational session. And then if there are other things that we need to do, we can do that in a virtual setting. We're not recommending that we, I'll just say, stay in school longer than the prescribed instructional day.
All right, thank you. And will we also be doing our part in keeping up with the CDC guidelines, such as taking daily temps before entering the building? Or are we not taking temperatures before school?
So the CDC has indicated that that should basically happen at home. And so at schools, what we will be doing is doing random checks as necessary. And so we also have a stepper, if you will. When we were going to hybrid, we had developed a stepper that teachers could just ask a few questions of students before they actually started the day. And based upon those responses, then we would provide that student with additional support as needed, meaning that that student may need to see the nurse, etc.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Ms. Tan. Mr. Bangora?
Yes. Hold on. Good evening, all. My first question is, how are we going to support the kids that are visual learners that actually learn better in front of stuff that are presented instead of behind a screen?
Well, I think what we have been able to do, thanks to the teachers in this district, I think a lot of them have been very creative. And so there are ways in which we provide visual, I'll say aspects of visual aspects of the actual lesson via the computer. And that can also be done through assignments as well. So those are just two ways in which I know that teachers have been supportive of students who are more of a visual learner, if you will.
Also, I would like to ask, how could the kids get more of a say on if they should go back or not? Because it is their education.
That's a very good question. Right now, what we're doing is basically following the Chester County Health Department's guidance in terms of students returning to school, and that's what we're actually utilizing to make some of those decisions. We did have an opportunity for students to provide feedback as we have been going throughout this process, if you will, from August through September. And even before then. So we did have some opportunities for students to provide some feedback.
And last question, as we get older, how are you going to support us in learning, in teachers, how to deal with real world problems instead of just stuff like basics?
So the real world problems, there are several ways. One of them is through the racism series that I just spoke to. And hopefully you are participating in that. That is something that's being offered as a way to talk about real world problems and what's happening today. I will also be continuing my talks with seniors, and I will probably be expanding that to have conversations with other groups of students as well as we go throughout the school year, so that we can just have, as I call it, or as someone has said to me, some real talk.
That would be all.
Thank you.
Mr. Bangor.
I have a quick question. So,
Sure.
would it be all right if I ask?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Dunn.
So, for lockers, are we still going to be allowed to use them, or are we just carrying all of our stuff and we aren't going to have a locker this year?
As of right now, lockers will be available, but obviously we're going to be following guidelines as it relates to the use of lockers.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Okay, we have no special awards this evening, so now it's public comments regarding agenda items. I'm going to start in the chat. If you guys could watch me so I don't skip anyone, that would be great. And then I'll be going to the 2 hands raised after I get through the chat. Ms. Cahill, how are desk barriers to work in the middle and high school where students are changing classrooms 6 times per day? Will teachers have to clean them?
The desk barriers are a student's responsibility. So we have sanitizing and wipes in classrooms. It will be a product for the student to utilize. Keep in mind that we are recommending as limited movement as possible, realizing that at the high and middle school level, some movement is going to be required. And so if Eric B. Coates has, if you will, a partition, I'm utilizing that partition, it's mine. And so that's how it will be used throughout the day for students.
Thank you, Dr. B. Coates. Ms. Cahill, what about teachers who medically cannot be in the building and there are not enough students in cyber to maintain a full cyber schedule?
Those teachers would be able to teach from home, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Ms. Cahill.
Okay. She should check with Mr. Conley.
She can do that, and just remember that we do have a list of teachers who indicated that they may have some health challenges, if you will, and so we will be working from that list. So if that particular teacher does have a concern, I would ask that they follow up with Human Resources.
Thank you, Dr. B. Coates. Ms. Cahill, may I make a proposal that the Thursdays and Fridays are switched? It will be hard for high school teachers to do an all live day when they haven't seen a third of their students. Slide number 9, item number 6 states that as an action item, follow up with cyber confirmed applicants in grades K-6 as needed. When can we expect this communication regarding K-6 cyber? And approximately when would you expect elementary cyber academy to commence?
As soon as we have the 3 teachers that we need, that's when we will be communicating with folks. We've already started that process. One of the things I do not want to do is have to tell these families again that we're not able to support them. So as soon as the cyber office concludes that process and we have 3 confirmed individuals, then we will proceed. Our goal is within the next 7 to 10 days so that we can meet the deadlines that are actually in the proposed plan.
Great. Mr. Denenza, could you put those links again, cut and paste them? Ms. Carney, will the school days stay the same as far as hours?
We are going to be implementing our normal school hours. I believe that's in the actual presentation, but we would go back to our normal hours because that has to be supported by transportation. So for a certain period of time, there may be a little overlap. But once everyone is back and we're on the full hybrid schedule, we will be following the normal hours.
Thank you. Ms. Hughes, what is the value of going into the buildings 1 day a week for students?
At some point, we have to transition students back into the building, because we all know and all data says that students learn better when they are, more students learn better when it's face-to-face and direct instruction. And so balancing that with the level of safety that we want to have and balancing that with social distancing, that was the best, if you will, compromise that we could come to. If you will remember, we did have an AABB model where it was 50% of your population. And we realized that we were not going to be able to effectively social distance with 50-50. So that's why we are recommending to the board, or recommended to the board, I should say, a third, and a third.
Thank you. From Ms. Ryder, how will you handle the students of teachers who cannot return to the building for health reasons? It's not like we can double up classes like we normally would, and we know we won't have subs. So who will be in the classroom with those students while they learn virtually from that teacher?
We will look at that on a case-by-case basis. I can't tell you today that we won't have subs. Based upon our conversations with our sub provider, there are opportunities for subs. And so we will look at those situations on a case-by-case basis. It may be that in some instances, if this is something that we know about ahead of time, or if it's something that occurs, or that it's, I'm not going to say planned, but it's a result of an occurrence, then we may have to indicate that that classroom or those students would be in a remote setting, and we would continue to provide the level of education that we could, given the circumstances.
Thank you. From Ms. Pardini, I have a question about the ABC schedule. The AB group will get the lesson early in the week and be able to complete follow-up, while the C group will not get in the class lesson until the end of the week. How can we plan lessons cohesively if we're not seeing the students every day? Virtual learning has already increased prep time for classes. Planning for 3 different groups that need in-person, asynchronous, and 1 live lesson at the same time will be impossible. If we are not mandated to use this schedule, why is it not ABC virtual Thursday, asynchronous Friday?
And I think that goes back to another recommendation that was made, switch Thursdays and Fridays, if I'm not mistaken. So we will, we can definitely look into that.
Great. Ms. Graham, what is the reasoning behind not bringing high school students in 1 grade at a time?
Based upon our numbers that we have, we feel confident with the third. And we are working with the high school principal to make sure that we are, or that we have things in place to support those students, keeping in mind that 9th grade is in one building and 10 through 12 is in another. So the numbers would definitely allow us to do that. And we feel as though that we need to provide consistency around the instruction that's being provided to those students, and having them come in that format, if you will, shortens the time period in which they would come back. If we extended it further, you would actually be into, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 2nd quarter, almost in December, before some of those students would be returning. Thank you.
Ms. Ryder, I'm going to skip your next question because it talks about making Thursday the day and Friday. Next question from Ms. Ryder. How will we handle situations when a group of teachers in a building has to quarantine from exposure to school? Who will be in the room with those students while they are instructed virtually by the quarantine teacher? We do not have nearly enough bodies to cover even a couple of teachers being out in one building.
So again, my initial thought is that what we would probably need to do is have those classes be taught virtually, and that we would have to have that communication with those families, that those students would be at home, and while the person is quarantined, the instruction would continue.
From Mr. Pardini. Under this plan, it seems like students will go from seeing their teacher virtually 4 days a week to only seeing their teachers 2 days a week. Is there any concern that this lack of face time will be detrimental to students?
No, not at this time. It is not. I think there are various benefits of students being in school for a full day. Keeping in mind right now, we're only providing instruction from 9 until 2. We will have more time to provide instruction and support for students by seeing them in the building. We will also be able to support them on the asynchronous day. On the synchronous day, I'm sorry, virtual live instruction, we'll be able to support them that day as well. And we still have the asynchronous day also.
Thank you. From Ms. Graham, is there any concern for the amount of instruction material that a child will be expected to learn independently? As a kindergarten teacher, I feel it will be extremely difficult for them to learn independently at home 3 days a week, especially when the teacher will not be available to help as they will be teaching in the classroom.
I think this entire situation has definitely made it challenging for all of us, meaning the pandemic. When you look at the amount of time that we will have for students, we will definitely be supporting them through or by going back and looking at our instructional planning guide, which outlines what should be covered during certain times. And so we may have to provide some additional support to teachers to better support our younger, specifically our younger learners for sure.
Thank you. From Ms. Ryder, if teachers are both instructing the students in front of them in the building, and now it was just said a student could log in virtually for that lesson, how will a teacher be effective while checking their screen for virtual students who need help or have questions? It spreads teachers even thinner than they are and will compromise the benefit of in-person learning.
So this is what I would say. I think that that is a challenge, and it's not the ideal situation. But one of the things that we are trying to do is balance providing students with face-to-face instruction, maintaining a level of safety, at the same time of following guidelines that we have. And so at the secondary level, we know that it is less challenging to provide synchronous learning and having two populations of students, if you will, focused on you as the teacher. At the earlier grades, we may have to do some things more creatively. And so that's something that, we will continue to develop as we go throughout this process and as we work with teachers. That was a statement that was made before, and we've heard this concern in terms of, especially at the elementary level, with teachers doing both in class and having students on the screen. But I've also heard from some teachers that want to do that. So we will work with schools and with teachers in ensuring that, for me, the main thing is that we're covering the content. The how about how you do that may look a little different for different individuals. And so I think the key piece here is making sure that we are covering the content that is outlined in the instructional planning guide.
Thank you. From Ms. Mashenda, so why do we only get 1 day a week now? Ms. Mashenda, that was shared earlier that we felt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Becoats, that we felt it was safer to divide things into 3 to assure social distancing.
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
From Ms. Womack, how will the specialists that teach in 2 buildings be addressed? What will be the ABC schedule look like?
Principals will work that out, and we will work with them if assistance is needed. I'm very confident that our principals will definitely support our specialists as they've done in developing the schedule that we're using currently. So we have the next, 4 weeks, 3 weeks to continue to make those adjustments to our plan as needed.
It seems like students will actually, from Ms. Perloff, it seems like students will actually be getting less teacher time in hybrid than they will in virtual. Also, when I teach virtually, my whole attention is on the computer. I don't know how I would I would teach kids in a classroom and kids who aren't coming in at all on a computer at the same time.
So one of the things that that we've done, and I've had conversations with other superintendents in Delaware County about this particular item, and students will sometimes join in the morning for the morning meeting, get the assignment, and so the students that are at home, they are completing the assignments that are provided, and the teacher that is in the classroom is continuing to work with students who are in the room. On the virtual live day, it may be that I'm doing something different with small groups of students based upon who I was actually working with on the previous day or days. And then we also have our office hours on Wednesday, in which we are providing more support to students who may need it. So I think it will require us to look at how we utilize our time if we're to move forward, or as we move forward with this actual model.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just lost my place.
I think it's Kay Fussell. Where do you sign up?
Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dr. Beacons.
No problem.
Where do you sign up for online learning? I recently had a baby and do not want my children to go back.
I would ask you to reach out to the Cyber Academy office, and that's Mr. Deninza. We're trying to, as much as possible, limit the number of, or the amount of movement, and it's also going to be dependent upon whether or not we have a space in cyber to accommodate those students.
Ms. Burke, if you're depending on parents to do temperature checks, what is the repercussion for sending a sick kid to school? How will this be enforced?
We will be contacting those families and instructing them to come and pick up their sick child.
What are the Ms. Quattrone, what are the expectations of teachers if we continue with ABC schedule? Students will be at different parts of the lessons throughout the week. We will need to make 3 sets of lesson plans, question mark.
I don't necessarily follow that same logic, because if I have a lesson plan for 30 students, and if I have 10 of those 30 students coming in 3 different days, I'm teaching the same lesson, but I'm just teaching it to a smaller group of students. So that would be my suggestion in terms of, I don't see you coming up with 3 different sets of lesson plans.
Okay. Ms. Jacobs, is the ABC schedule for low incidence classrooms as well, or do they still follow the AABB?
Our low incidence students, because of the numbers, we will be following the AABB. So those students would come in on a Monday, Tuesday, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Gina, and a Thursday, Friday.
Ms. Gina says good.
Yes, thumbs up. Okay, thanks, Gina.
Ms. Cahill, I think that question was answered previously, earlier. Check with HR. Ms. Graham, what is the plan if something like what happened with the exposure quarantine happens when students come back to school? Walnut had 6 staff members on quarantine at once, and we do not have that many substitutes to cover classes. Usually we would combine classes, but we won't be able to do that. Dr. B. Previously,
Go ahead, Yusuf.
Dr. Because previously stated that those students might have to go virtual, and we would be following health department guidance. Right? Correct?
Yes, you are correct.
All right. Ms. Graham, if we are going to go to school for a full school day, will the students still be allowed to participate in recess? Younger students need play, and we are instructed to put away all toys and keep items that students will not share.
So yes, I'm recommending that recess is a part. And I think that we're going to have to, as we've done in the virtual world, identify activities that students can participate in recess, where they can be outside or in an open area and still have the benefit of recess. So we are still recommending that we do not have the, I'll say the touching, if you will, of all students of individual toys, if you will, but there are other activities that students can participate in that are aligned to that are still aligned to recess, and giving them the opportunity to play, if you will.
Thank you. Mr. Mooney, what are the academic implications of going from 4 days virtual in-person to 1 day of in-person and 1 day asynchronous? If I'm an A-day student, what am I doing on days B and C?
On days B and C, you are continuing with the assignments and the work that has been provided, keeping in mind that you do have 2 days in between, or 2 days that you are working on, have virtual live instruction by the teacher. And then on the other day, you do have assignments that you're still completing, and and teachers are also providing office hours on those days. At this point, I am not aware of any negative academic implications from the virtual to the in-person instruction.
Great.
And the other thing that I would just share, a lot of that is being driven by ensuring that we are able to have social distancing in place.
Got it. From Mr. Dunn, will there be a scaffold approach to the return of teachers and staff as well? How will staff who work in multiple schools be utilized via the proposed hybrid learning model?
So there will be a staggered approach, I believe, on the slide where we provided the actual plan itself, meaning when students would come in, which week. We are recommending that teachers come in and prepare at least a week prior to the students returning.
Great. Ms. Van Heusen, for students new to the district, can we sign up for the cyber option?
That will be dependent upon the number of seats that we have available. That's the best answer that I can give tonight. And if there are more questions, I would strongly encourage those individuals to follow up with Mr. Denenza. And Mr. Denenza, if you could maybe put the phone number in the chat, or either the email address where they could communicate and follow up with you, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Denenza. LM, since small children struggle with washing hands, how would that be enforced?
We're going to work with our small kids and try to encourage them and show them and lead by example. So we will be working with them accordingly. We have lots of different signage already up in our buildings talking about the importance of washing your hands and making sure that we all stay safe.
From Ms. Torres, with the current return plan, will gifted support still remain virtual?
I believe so. I'm not sure about that, but I'll follow up. And you said that was Ms. Torres? I don't see that
Right.
question.
Right.
Oh, I see it. I got it.
Mr. Denenza, can you copy the chat at the end of the meeting, please? Thank you. Ms. Ryder, so middle and high school students will be carrying partitions through the hallways as they travel from class to class. That's a recipe for disaster.
That would be the expectation.
Okay. Mr. Pardini had the same question. Ms. Christopher, is it correct that the hybrid plan reduces the current live instruction for students from 4 days to 2? How will specials be implemented under this plan?
We will have more time within the day. And so we will be looking at schedules and making accommodations accordingly. What we have is students are getting live instruction 2 days a week. That is the day that they're in school. And that is the day that teachers are providing virtual live instruction. We also have, or we still have, the day in which students are able to access office hours. And again, I just want to highlight, when we had the AABB model, individuals had concerns about us being able to social distance. And so in order for us to social distance, we had to reduce the number of students that would be in a classroom. And so in order to do that, we had to spread out the number of students that would be in a class on any given day. So that's really part of the driver, if you will, behind the ABC.
From Dylan, will special education students that attend regular education classes still be able to attend those classes based on limited movement policy?
That is the expectation. We're definitely going to make sure that we're following what's outlined in the student's IEP.
Great. Do hours apply to cyber school also?
There will be a schedule for cyber, so the hours may be different based upon what we actually implement. So yes, they could be different.
Great. Would common areas such as bathrooms be cleaned multiple times throughout the day?
That is our expectation, and we're going to continue to work with our maintenance provider, Airmark, to make sure that that happens. This conversation did also come up for our low incidence population. And so we are looking at, for those populations, doing something more regularly as far as the restrooms that those students utilize.
Ms. Hargrove, what does the schedule look like for a specialist, example art, who teaches at 2 schools? Will we be expected to travel between 2 schools weekly?
We will work with those teachers. If it's something that we can provide in a virtual setting and it's effective, I don't have a problem or concern about that. We will continue to work on those schedules over the next few weeks with principals to make sure that we're still able to support students based upon what we are currently providing.
From Ms. Perloff, what about students who refuse to wear masks?
That's not going to be an option. We have a policy and a procedure around wearing masks. It's something that they must do. We will continue to work with families to make sure that that happens and that is in place. Where we have issues, we will have to address them on a case-by-case basis.
Mr. Pardini, if we're doing a regular schedule, doesn't that mean students will spend 3 days in front of a computer screen for 8 hours a day?
I would say no to that. If we are providing students with asynchronous work and assignments to complete, they would not be in front of a screen for 8 hours a day. As we've said before, there are various parts of a lesson, and all of those parts of a lesson are not necessarily dictated by a student being on the screen. So we can always introduce a lesson, do some work together, and then the students are engaged in their individual work time to complete various aspects of an assignment.
From Ms. Conley, there's mention of a second wave coming. How are you going to handle that? Also, there is a shortage of sanitized wipes, so how will the school handle that?
Luckily, thanks to Mr. Cuff, we have a sufficient, we believe at this point, a sufficient supply of PPE. And we've provided, most of our schools, I believe, already have portions of those supplies, but we do have additional supplies on hand to support students, as well as our staff.
From Ms. Burke, what happens on the days you aren't in the building? Will it depend on the teacher? I'm assuming the student is not in the building.
So for a student who's not in the building, I would say yes, it depends on the teacher. It depends upon how the teacher has structured their lesson and what additional assignments a teacher is providing to students to complete based upon the lesson that they completed through direct instruction.
Okay. For Ms. Brandt, for days we are teaching asynchronous and virtually, will instructors still be able to work from home, as some of our own children have different schedules?
Yes, I don't foresee that. I don't foresee that as a problem.
There was another thing about 3 different types of lessons that you've addressed, and another request to switch Thursday and Friday. From Ms. Anderson, if I'm an A student, what happens on B and C days? Will there be homework? Will attendance be taken?
Yes, to all of those.
From Ms. Hughes, if a classroom teacher is quarantined, shouldn't all their students be quarantined?
Not necessarily. That depends upon what the Chester County Health Department provides as guidance. Having gone through this situation, it is heavily dependent upon the particular situation that determines who gets quarantined.
From Ms. Van Heusen, to clarify, while A students are in the classroom, B and C students will participate in the same lesson virtually, correct?
They could be. Yes, they could be.
Okay. Ms. Pardini, parents are being given the option to choose virtually only for their children. Will teachers be given the same option? Many of us have high-risk family members and have been doing everything possible to lower our risk of contracting and spreading COVID. It does not seem fair to force us to put ourselves and our families at risk.
At this point, we will be requiring that teachers are in the building on the A, B, and C day that students are there.
Thank you. Ms. Mapp, it was mentioned we would have additional cleaners in our building. Will they start before we return to in-person learning?
Yes, those individuals are already in place. One of the things that we are continuing to work on is making sure that our buildings are clean and that they meet the standards that we have as a district.
Okay, a couple of comments from Ms. Torres. Bringing students back during flu season seems like a bad idea since many of the symptoms are similar to COVID. Ms. Coleman, as R. Keith Matheny, School Connect author, said, find a pathway through the obstacles. Ms. Farr, will 3 cyber teachers now be sufficient when 7 were needed to cover K-6 classes?
3 teachers will be. Those teachers will have to teach 2 grades. And we actually have a total of 4 cyber teachers. One of the positions is a permanent position. And the other 3 would be temporary positions that we are filling to support the requests and the needs of our students, as well as our families.
Got it. Mr. Mooney, academically, this feels like a step backwards. I see my students 4 days a week. Now I'll see them 2. I believe that we should stay with the current setup. We are really just getting into the flow of it, and I feel it's being successful. While our local data is good, experts are warning of a fall wave, a resurgence, and I don't see that missing us. Ms. Graham, you say that the main concern is covering the content, but this plan takes away more time from teaching content. Younger students cannot teach themselves new content when they are not working asynchronously. Therefore, they will get less content. They will only get 2 new lessons per week with this new model. Ms. Everett, will specialists come to general education classrooms, or will the children transition to the special teachers' rooms?
The guidance from the health department is always that teachers are moving and we have less movement of students.
Great.
And so that is the recommendation, and our goal is to follow that to the greatest extent that we can.
Great. From Ms. Graham, has the mental health of teachers been considered? There is so much more work being put on our plates every day. I'm not sure how much more we can take.
I think yes, we are concerned about the mental health of our teachers. And so we do take that into account. Part of the reason why we sometimes spend time on some of the things that we're doing within or through professional development will hopefully address some of those concerns. The whole social and emotional learning piece is not only for students, but it also is a way to help us as adults. And so I would say yes to that.
Great. And Ms. Everett asked if students will be allowed to go outside for recess. Yes. From Mr. Pardini, on our last survey, about 1/3 of teachers reported being at high risk. Is Dr. B. Coates able to ensure that all those teachers will be accommodated with fully virtual schedules?
I can't speak to those actual numbers. I do know that we have a list of individuals who have made requests, and we will continue to look at that information as we go forward with this particular model.
Will the district be adjusting the pace of curriculum since many have students at different points in progress toward the standards?
I am having a meeting with Mr. McKay and his team as it relates to, again, what's in the instructional planning guide. So yes,
Thank you.
maybe.
Ms. Burke, low incidence students, does that include emotional support?
I believe it's life skills and what's the other one that I'm missing, Gina?
Autistic support.
Thank you. Life skills and autistic support.
Got it. Ms. Hughes, if the same lesson is taught Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then only 1/3 of the lessons can be taught, right?
I would say no, because we have more time. Keep in mind the time of the instructional day is being expanded. So you will have more time with your students. Right now, we only have the window of 9 to 2.
I'll read Ms. Coleman's. I'm not sure when my comment will surface, but in regards to creating 3 lessons plans, from the perspective of a teacher, we will need 3 different plans. Students separated into 3 groups will not learn at the same pace, and so in order to provide quality education for our students, we will need to update and modify our lessons as we determine how well students are understanding each individual lesson. Assuming all students learn in the same is unrealistic. I would not teach Group A and B the exact same if Group A is struggling and Group B is mastering, which means I need different plans. So my question is, when will we be given time to plan? If we are expected to still assist students on Wednesdays and complete PD on Wednesday also.
I'll go back to my comment that I shared earlier, and I'm not sure what school Ms. Coleman is working from or working at, but be more than happy to share more information on differentiated instruction. If I have 30 students in my classroom or 20 students in my classroom, those students are still not going to learn at the same rate, regardless of how many I have. And so I'm having to address those students in one classroom at any specific time. So one of the things that I know that we've promoted since I've been here is small group instruction, which means that you're doing different things with different groups of students throughout the day. And so there is a way for this to work, and would be more than happy to share additional information with that teacher and that principal and that instructional facilitator at that particular school to help illustrate what I'm saying.
Okay,
So I've made a note of her name, and I'll follow up accordingly.
great. And we're gonna get you a copy of this so you can go through in case I messed anything up.
Okay.
Ms. Maneri is asking for clarification on how many total lessons high school students will be given. Monday, Tuesday, Friday, students in the building get 1 lesson in the school and then 1 lesson while they're learning at home, a total of 2 lessons. Then an asynchronous day is the 3rd lesson for the week. Is that correct?
It could be correct. It depends upon how you have actually set up your lesson. Specifically at the high school, there is a way for students to learn content through project-based learning. There are ways in which we can definitely do that. So I don't want to give a definite answer to that. That's something that we could definitely work through through your principal and based upon what's outlined in the curriculum.
Great. Yes, Ms. Tax, we will be getting to the hand raisers. I decided to go through the chat first this time. From Ms. Kostelas, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. From a safety perspective, I think this is a fantastic plan. Oh boy. I'm sorry. Mr. Pennell, I know that sports are on hold for the fall and winter, but is the district allowing social distancing organized workouts and practices with guidance from coaches and/or WPSD staff?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Ms. Graham, with students being sent to their home school, could we revisit transportation issue to shorten the day?
That's not, yeah, I don't believe that that's something that we can accommodate based upon the conversations we've had with transportation, but we'll make a note of that and I'll follow up with Mr. Cuff.
Okay. Ms. Pardini has another question similar to others that you can look at in the chat. Ms. Cahill, when will classrooms be cleaned if they are being used daily?
When will classrooms be cleaned if they're being used daily? At the end of the day,
Okay,
when you are no longer in your classroom, unless there's a need to clean it while you're in the room, then we would deploy people there accordingly, or you can make a request as a teacher that something needs to be addressed in your classroom.
great. Ms. Heather, will there be exceptions to wearing masks, for example, kids with asthma?
We're going to follow the guidelines, though that student may be given a face mask, a face shield, I'm sorry, not a face mask, a face shield.
Ms. Torres, so will the kids get more assignments and less instructional / teaching time with this new plan?
Not necessarily. Again, it's going to, it's going to take us some time over the next couple of weeks, I think, to go back and look at where we are with our content and where we should be by the date that students return. And then I think we're going to have to develop plans accordingly.
Got it. Mr. Carpenter, why am I unable to read public comments? It would expedite the meeting and minimize repeat corrections. I strongly suggest we reconsider this new, in quote, setup. Ms. Everett, if students are in the classroom for special and specialist is teaching virtually, who will be supervising students? Who will homeroom teachers be asked to give up their prep time? Additionally, if teachers are giving up their prep time, will they receive coverage?
I'm really not following that particular question.
So you can get back to them.
That's fine.
Okay. Ms. Shoemaker, my kindergartners are having a hard time keeping focus with a 9 to 2 day. If the day is longer, how can we expect them to be in front of the computer 8 hours?
I'm hoping that when the student is in the building, they're not in front of the computer for 8 hours. And some of the assignments and work that we give them for those younger students would not require them to be on the computer for that amount of time either. We've never suggested that any child is on the computer for 8 straight hours. So again, it is going to require us to look at some of the assignments and some of the work that is provided to students.
Great.
Definitely.
Ms. Dunford, PP is not at Ardmore. She's asked about it. Can you make sure it's in the school?
We will do that, sure.
Mr. Pardini, I'm going to suggest that you address Dr. Becoats directly. Ms. Mashenda, do all parents get a vote or does the board decide for all?
The board is the voting body.
Correct. Brother Brock, our PCAs coming in from different agencies required to have COVID-19 testing. There is a concern that frontline employees, administrative SSOs, custodial are going to be in harm's way with increased interaction from both agency employees and students.
I think that could be a possibility that they're coming from different agencies. Gina, would you want to add anything to that?
Right now, we haven't put that as part of our contingents, our plans for our PCAs, but if that's something the district decides that we want, then we can have a conversation with them.
Ms. Burke, how will lunch be handled?
Given the numbers that we have, we're thinking that we should be able to accommodate students in the cafeteria. But again, that's something that principals, as we finalize the number of students by day, those plans will be developed accordingly.
Okay. Will masks be provided for all students on a daily basis?
We will have masks available for students who do not have a mask. Given where we are right now, we believe that most people have masks, but in the event that someone shows up in a building without a mask, we will be able to provide them with one.
Mr. Carpenter, the primary focus has been placed on social distancing, the school and bus setting. How are we going to handle students walking from home?
Those students will continue to walk as they normally do. We've not received any guidance to do anything different with walkers.
Ms. Van Huzen, what day will the board make a decision on these recommendations? If the board doesn't approve the recommendation now, we could go another month and reassess, correct?
We could go another month and reassess, keeping in mind that it would probably take us at least 3 to 4 weeks to make sure that we are ready for whatever model we put into place. That's why we're bringing it to the board now. And that's also why we've pushed the dates back some, to make sure that we can adequately plan and be able to have everything in order to adequately support students.
Correct. Ms. Cahill, I'm going to suggest you contact Dr. B. Coates directly. Lunch we talked about. Ms. Evans, low incidence teachers and all other teachers are on the same contract. However, the low incidence teachers are working in person 4 days a week. Are you sure this is not a union issue? Another lunch question. I'm sorry, did you want to answer that union issue?
Sure. We've been in conversation with all of the low incidence teachers. We actually had a meeting, I think it was a week ago, maybe. And the union is aware of what we are or were planning to do. So that issue did not surface during any of our conversations. And the other thing I would say is teachers are being paid to work 5 days a week.
Okay. Sorry, I looked ahead. Why, Ms. Graham, I'm going to suggest that you contact Dr. B. Coates. Ms. Angel, how will the teachers have more time with the student if we're going from 9 to 2 Monday through Friday, which gives them 24 hours a week with the children to 2 days of interaction of 6.5 hours a day? Sorry, that's
No, that's okay. The amount of time that a teacher has in this 9 to 2 day is condensed for the content area. We specifically did that because it was a shortened day. So when you go back to the regular time period of a day, you would have more time for various subjects, keeping in mind that you're going to be doing the regular day for more than 1 day out of the week.
Right. Ms. Graham, I'm also going to encourage you to reach out to Dr. B. Coates. Osmond, when are the kids resuming classes? That schedule is at the link. And Mrs. Shenda, will the students be required to transport laptops back and forth? The answer is yes, correct?
That is correct, unless there are other instructions provided by the teacher.
Got it. All right, Mr. Cuff, or Mr. Denenza, Ms. Tax is up now. Ms. Tax, how are you?
Hello. I have quite a few things. I don't know how much I can ask, but
If they've already been covered, I ask you not to ask them.
yeah, they're not covered. So
Okay.
okay, going back.
You get 3 minutes.
Okay. So in going back to the thing about the asthmatics not wearing masks, during the doctors from CHOP, they said that it does not interfere with asthmatics. It actually helps them because they're not breathing in the pollen. It blocks a lot of stuff. So there's nothing wrong if you want to go back and watch the webinar where the kids shouldn't be wearing masks just because they have asthma. And they also recommended no mask breaks, that even when they're eating, that the mask should be pulled up when they're not chewing or anything like that. There is no such thing as a mask break, they said, because the masks are the #1 deterrent of not spreading it. But anyway, back to my question. I needed clarification. You said that the numbers are going up in the community we're teaching in, but going down in Delaware County. So if they're going up, why are we bringing the kids back?
We're doing this because we are looking at the data. We're continuing to look at it. We do have about 4 more weeks before we would actually be bringing the students back in this plan. So we will continue to monitor the data. If you look at the rubric for making a determination for when students return to school, we are still within those guidelines.
Okay. And then you said earlier that we were going to bring the kids back at the end of the first marking period. We moved the first marking period to November 18th. So this is going to be really disruptive because it'll be 16 days left for our kids at the middle school.
Right, and if you go to the first part of the presentation, it says should. It does not say that we must. So we are following what what the board approved.
Okay. Will there be voting held in our building? Because we'll be bringing the kids back on the 2nd, and then voting takes place shortly after that. Is that going to be a polling site?
I am not sure, Ms. Tax.
Because, right, it would have to be clean before the kids come back in.
Right.
Yes.
The voters are not all over our buildings. They're in very specific areas.
Okay, and also with the prep time, so right now, like, we have meetings on Wednesday. We only get like 2 hours to meet with the kids. So, I mean, I'm working till midnight every night and getting up at 4:30 in the morning just to try to get a handle on the amount of work. How are we, if we're teaching full time, like with the kids, like various kids coming in, where were we going to have time to answer their emails? Like, no offense, but I still have to have a little bit of a personal life. Like, I can't go home and I can't keep on working till midnight every night and getting up at 4:30 in the morning, if not earlier. Like, it's really taxing. So, like, what can we do about giving us time to be able to do this?
Whatever suggestions you have, Ms. Tax, I would be more than willing to consider them.
Okay, and also I want to request that you have a meeting with the teachers. Like, I know we talked about that earlier, that we would have like an actual meeting, but I think it would be good just to hear all of our concerns and our ideas, to meet with you, the superintendent, and figure out some ways, because like I said, it's overwhelming and like we're getting burned out fast.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Tax. Ms. Farmer, you're up.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
I'm Marie Louise Faber. I have kids at Ardmore Avenue. So I want to preface what I'm going to say with, I have anxiety, and it has been nonstop all summer with all these meetings. And I'm an involved parent. I try to be there to listen to all this, make good decisions for my family and my kids. But I feel nauseous and sick. I have not been this stressed out ever. And none of that has been addressed, how that affects us. The cyber school was pulled out from under our feet 3 days before school was supposed to be starting. There was no apology, there was no concern. I was in hysterics for my children's, like, they didn't know what was happening. They were upset too. So that has yet to be addressed. This new plan is ridiculous. I don't understand how one day in front of a teacher and 4 days in front of a computer, 3 of them doing busy work without any instruction. I'm at home working full time as the only adult in the house. What are they going to do for 3 days when there's nobody there to help them? I have a 3rd grader. She can't do all this on her own. I can't imagine what parents have to go through that have kindergarten, 1st, 2nd graders. They cannot work 3 days at home by themselves. Spring was pure hell, right? It was stressful. It was a huge change on top of everything else. it's been going well. I just don't understand why we're pulling this all up now. Additionally, yes, my family was signed up for cyber school. I'm no longer interested in cyber school if we're shortchanging the program. There's not enough teachers. It seems like there's no intent to serve the kids K-6. Like the whole plan. And the other thing that really upsets me tonight is the questions that were asked were all very good, extremely important, and none of these scenarios seem to have been run through. The answers were not there. I'd like to know where the school district is in working through all these plans and making sure we have something that is stable that our kids can walk into. What's being presented tonight is not that. So there, I said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Faber. I will follow up with you.
Ms. Coleman? Ms. Coleman, you can speak now.
I'm sorry, which Miss Coleman do you want?
It's you.
Okay.
You're on, you can speak now.
I didn't ask to speak.
Your hand's up.
Oh, sorry, that's a mistake.
All right, having a good day. Mr. Pardini?
Hi, I just wanted to bring up something that affects me personally, but several other teachers at the high school. I teach an AP course, and I've already had to remodel absolutely everything to try and cover all the content that is required for an AP test to try and help these kids be ready and prepared. And if I'm cut down to seeing students essentially one day a week in person and the rest of the work is on their own, I just feel like that's asking so much of these students who are living through a pandemic and all the social and emotional issues that's already causing, to then ask them to do so much AP work asynchronously and only have one day a week in person and one virtual day where I can try and help them process all of this is going to be a real challenge for a lot of those students taking the higher level classes. I'm not saying virtual learning is easy. It's more work than I've done since I became a teacher. But I at least feel like I can see them consecutive days. I can keep things organized, and I have enough time to get to their questions and really address what they say they need to try and help them be most successful. So I just wanted to bring up that consideration as a potential flaw in this plan. And hopefully we consider those kids as well, because they are taking very challenging courses in very challenging circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, you're up next.
Hello, can you hear me?
You can.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt with so much going on. I would just like to raise an objection as my right of section 710.1 of the Sunshine Act. You know, we started off well with the transparency and everything else, and now I'm looking over to the message board and messages are only being received by the panelists. Was there some type of policy vote, or did the district demonstrate that the communications listed in the chat are exempt from disclosure?
There was no vote taken. I'm not sure what you're seeing on your end, but I don't know if Mr. Denenza could share any information as to if this is different than what we've done in the past, or Mr. Cuff.
Yes, sir. Previously, we could see all of the comments and the chats, and now it's restricted to the panelists, so that, you know, it's an issue of disclosure.
Well, except that Ms. Hoff is repeating all of the actual public comments. She is not repeating some of the questions, which are not technically public comment anyway, and normally would simply get referred to administration to be answered at a later date in the normal course. but actual comments have been read out loud by Ms. Hoff. There's been no policy or vote on this, and we'll certainly consult with Mr. Denenza as to whether that's just sort of a
It's
default
changed
position
because
that didn't need to be
previously
fixed.
it was allotted for the panelists, and now it has disappeared. Once again, I'm not questioning the integrity of Ms. Hoff, but as a taxpayer and a public citizen, I am allotted the right to read all correspondence that is taking place during the meeting. I could quote several court cases, but we're not even going to go there. But previously, public chat was listed, and now it's not. So are you saying that everyone here has to file a right to know policy, a right to know action in order to see all of the messages in this new age of transparency?
Mr. Carpenter, I can assure you I'm looking at the features right now, and I don't have an option while we're in this meeting. I could certainly look at the back end. However, as Ms. Hoff mentioned previously, I'm saving the chat, so every single chat submission is being saved. So if the solicitor and the board wants to provide that too, we certainly can.
It's not a matter of want, it's a matter of public right. So previously you were able to, you can change it back from questions being given to the panelists. Now you had it set up previously where we can only comment directly to the panelists. That was great, that was understood. And now it's saying that I can't read any of the comments. For one, it prolongs your meeting. Number two, you have people now asking repeat questions. And number three, it's all about transparency. Once again, Ms. Hoff may, not even intentionally, may have missed a question or two and somebody has passed over. Now you are providing that, I'm still speaking, sir. Now you are providing that dialogue to the school board and Dr. B. Coates and solicitor, yes, but the public is entitled to that same right. So if you are denying that right as of right now, I am raising an objection. 710.1 Sunshine Act, and I am going on public record right now, regardless of how we respond, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Graham, you're up next. You're on, Ms. Graham.
Thanks. I just wanted to speak to Dr. B. Coates. I know that earlier you had an uncertainty about a question that was asked about the specialist. So I just wanted to break it down. So let's say my class has art today. The art teacher decides to teach art virtually from her classroom, leaving my students in my class. Who was watching the students in my class?
Okay, now I understand your question. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that clarification. Given that clarification, we would need to have that teacher in the room teaching those students.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Ms. Mashenda?
Hi, my only concern is y'all want us to transport these laptops back and forth to school. The bags that y'all gave the students these laptops in do not work. I've already dropped the laptop once because the straps came out. So are y'all gonna provide better bags, or are we as parents supposed to provide a suitable bag for these laptops to be transported back and forth to school?
Ms. Mashenda, right now we do not have plans to provide other bags, but I've made a note of that item.
Okay. Yeah, them little blue bags, Dr. B. Coates, they don't work. The little.
Yep, I know which ones you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I dropped one and I was thankful that it didn't break, but yeah, doing something, I had to upload something, but I just want you to be aware that they're not the best. They're not the greatest. And my concern is because you're going to have kids that you said have to transport that walk to and from school. So I don't know what we're going to do with that, but I just want you to be aware.
Thank you.
You're welcome, dear.
Angel is up next.
Good evening. So I have a 5th grader, and we struggled significantly last year with the model that was initially imposed when the pandemic first hit. So I definitely want to echo some of the other concerns around the younger children having to basically teach themselves on the days in which they will be home and provided lessons, because that's exactly what took place. So they were assigned lessons, they were expected to learn and read and comprehend new material on their own. And of course, hopefully with the support of parents who hopefully understands it as well, who may have also learned very differently. So I definitely want to bring that up and echo some of the other concerns around that. Also, in regards to the transporting of the laptops back and forth, I have some concerns around that as well with the younger children. My fifth grader and I do live 2 blocks away, so she does walk to school. There is some huge concerns around her having to transport a laptop that is not ours, that we are responsible for, back and forth to school, along with the other supplies that are expected for her to have daily. These items all become very heavy. So that's another concern. And then lastly, the day that they are virtual lessons and the teacher is teaching in the classroom and also the children is watching this lesson live, can I get some feedback on that? Because for the younger children, that is going to be a huge issue, specifically for teachers. I mean, if they're trying to keep their classroom in order, and then there's also technology issues, that is a lot. I mean, even just now doing the virtual lessons and seeing some of the teachers struggle through logging on or coming back on time or unmuting or muting the whole classroom, all of those things are a lot. So now to expect them to be able to do that and have actual students in front of them for the younger grades is a huge concern as a parent.
Okay. I thank you for sharing that.
All right, Ms. Cahill's up next.
Hi, Dr. B. Coates. I just kind of want to mimic both Jason Pardini and Melissa Tax's concern. It would be wonderful if you would be willing to meet with, elementary teachers and then middle school teachers and high school teachers. In each school, there are very specific circumstances that are specific just to that school, and also just to that particular group of students. Mr. Pardini addressed the issue with AP students, but I also wanted to address my concern as an ELL, for ELL students. We already are having difficulty with ELL students making transitions because they're not getting enough support. And we actually just had a professional development about it last week. So I'm really going to encourage you to please reach out to the specific staff so that you can know all of these small nuances that possibly are off your radar because they're not affecting the general population. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cahill. I'm going to read 2 things from chat and then we're going to move to our agenda. No instruction for younger children has been a huge burden on parents who are also still working. We either need all in person or all virtual. All virtual has been working amazing. This new model that's being pitched is going to burn the teachers out by December. Children will be well behind and frustrated, and so will parents. And then there was a comment that they don't believe in the beginning we used Zoom webinar for meetings, and that is the difference in the chat. But I will say I'm happy for the chat to be copied and posted along with the video. And if people want to read it, that's okay. It doesn't give out any more information than I've already given out. And then last question from Ms. Freeman. How will the schedule affect seniors? Seniors are ABC day, correct, Dr. B. Coates?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Thank you all for your patience, school board directors and attendees. Any communications, Mr. Cuff?
There are no communications.
Thank you. Community Relations Committee agenda. A1, grab and go breakfast, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 to 9 a.m. 2 other resources, Neighbor to Neighbor Community Development Corp. And that is Thursday from 6 to 8 in 816 Felton Avenue in Sharon Hill. And then the Upper Darby Community Outreach Corp is offering free hot meals at the Christ Lutheran Church at 7240 Walnut Street in Upper Darby. Those are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5 to 6:30. If you need delivery, call 610-352-7008. The Family Resource Center webpage, again, williampenn.sd.org/family-resource-center. A3, Penwood High School Annual College Fair, October 28th, Wednesday. More information to come. And Give Kids Sight Day free eye care for children. PCCY is sponsoring. That URL is pccy.org/sight day. And then A5, the food box distribution this Thursday, 8 to 11 a.m. at Park Lane Elementary in the parking lot. These boxes will be heavy, so come prepared, my fellow citizens. Ms. Boykins, are you available to do education or shall I?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, go for it.
B1, release and settlement agreements. That's, and B2, memorandum of understanding to participate in the food trust program.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boykins. Okay, any questions from the board? On yeah, may I have a second, please? Thank you, Mr. Khan.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions from the Board of School Board Directors? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
against? Okay, thank you. Ms. Ivory, our new Personnel Chair, please proceed.
C1, resignations, A, professional staff. C2, retirement, administrative staff, Mr. Curtis Stockley. He's been in the district since October 31st, 2006. C3, rescinding appointments, A, professional staff. C4, change in assignment. C5, years of service recognition for 2019-2020 school year. And I will read these for everyone. For 30 years, we have Sandy Blender, Maureen Flynn, Leanne Haggerty, Tamara Nash, Alfred Poplowski, Rebecca Vandenberg. Thank you. 25 years, Alvin Jeff Cuff, Mary Beth Kleinberger, and Patricia Thompson. For 20 years, Beverly Ades, Kimberly Banazek, forgive me if I pronounced it incorrectly, Keith Curley, Deborah Fletcher, Nicole Heilman, Diane O'Donnell, Jill Shoemaker, Mary Lou Tierney, and David Wetzel. For 15 years, Dewana Ambrose, Sean Anthony, Ernestine Boone, Tracy Boyle, Jennifer Sifuni, Lisa Coleman, Raphael Curry, Aaron D. Horatius, Hope D. Gregoria, if I pronounced it incorrectly, again, forgive me, Kim Evans, William Garb, Alice Grunt, Amber Hill, Delane Jones, Darren Jordan, Lisa Landrum, Michelle Lawler, Michelle Linden, Jacqueline Laura, Kyra Miller, James Mooney, Tanya Moore, Carol Poplowski, Jacqueline Powers, Heidi Corancino, Nicole Reel, Brian Sandman, Heather Swigert, Melinda Tax, and Anne Marie Willoughby. For 10 years, we have Randolph Carpenter, Shannon Carvello, Amanda Cleveland, Adeline Frazier, Denise Jisoo, Shannon Graham, April Jamison, Afia Lewis, Mary McManus, Savvy Orr, Elise Perloff, Diane Schumann, Seamus.
Sounds like she got disconnected.
Okay.
Seamus Smith and Diane Williams.
Okay. And then
That was weird.
Hey, she's coming back, I think. All right.
B, professional development technology training for the 2020-21 school year.
Miss Ivory, can you start at C6? We lost you for about 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. C6, resignation, A, administrative. C7, appointments, A, professional staff. B, professional development technology training for the 2020-2021 school year. C, facilitator meetings for the 2020-2021 school year. D, special education leadership team for the 2020-21 school year as well. And E, supplemental contracts. Let's see. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Miss Ivory. May I have a second, please?
Second, Joy.
And thank you, Miss Joy. Any questions from the Board of School Board Directors? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? All right, Mr. Tong, property, please.
D1, restrictive covenant pertaining to a former bus lot located on Main Street in Darby, PA. This is to approve the recording of a restrictive covenant to prohibit the development of the Darby bus lot by educational entities or nonprofit corporations.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second, Joy.
Thank you. Any questions from the Board of School Board Directors? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Thank you. Budget and Finance, E1, Treasurer's Report, E2, List of Bills. Any questions?
Someone has to move them.
Oh, sorry. May I have a move and a second?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Second to Mo. Any questions from the Board of School Board Directors? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? All righty. Thank you. Policy, there are no agenda items this evening. Okay. Back to the top. Mr. Wright is absent today, so no report from Delaware County Community College. Ms. Hopkins, any report
Ms.
from?
Hop-
Yes.
I should report out the last week.
Sorry.
On the 21st, the board did conduct an executive session to discuss a property matter.
Thank you. That was number 9, the solicitor's report. I apologize, Mr. Khan. Any old business, Mr. Cuff?
No, ma'am.
Any new business, Mr. Cuff?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, still no report from Mr. Wright. Ms. Hopkins, any report from the Delaware County Intermediate Unit?
They had a virtual parent back to school night, parent night. Actually, it was this week. There's going to be the CIPL is going to host a virtual reading Olympics and supports P2G grant. So if any parent or teachers, actually it was sent out to the teachers in the county this week. So if there's any questions, you can reach out to the IU. And I think that was it. Let me go real quick. Oh, and then the Head Start and the Early Head Start has returned into full in-person programming.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. Appreciate it. Okay, Delaware County Legislative Council, that is myself. Mr. Denenza, can you so today I'm supplying you with a link to the DCIU Legislative Council report. Thank you, Mr. Denenza. There is a lot of bills floating around. Some will be helpful, some will not. I encourage you to read it. Pay a special, there you go, Mr. Denenza. Take a special look at Senate Bill 1216. It has turned into a school bill. Thank you. Oh, perfect, Mr. Denenza. Please, it's about 2 pages long. Please take a look at it. It is very, very important that you reach out to your state representatives. If you want coaching or help to do so, please don't hesitate to contact me. And I will coach you through advocacy. There will be a number of bills between now and the end of October. They will break for elections. So please keep that on your radar. Again, Senate Bill 1216 is pretty important.
Can you just give us a snapshot, Jennifer, of what that is? Just a really quick brief.
Yeah, so there is a lot in that bill. It's one of those bills that start as one thing, but is looking like another. So it talks about certification flexibility, state graduation requirements, local graduation requirements, Keystone exams, NIMS testing, federal testing waiver, parental opt-out of state assessments, educator evaluation, confidentiality, transference and removal of health records, and non-public school transportation for 2021. Right? So it's sort of got a life of its own there. Again, any questions, feel free to contact me. All right. Any comments from citizens regarding non-agenda items? Non-agenda. Ms. Mashenda has her hand up. You're on, Ms. Mashenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if what you said about Head Start and early Head Start was an agenda item, but Head Start is not full day. It's half day and virtual. Only early Head Start is all day for DCIU. I just want y'all to that has to be clarified so you don't give out misinformation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mashenda.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I was reading that fast and trying to skim real quick.
It's okay, Miss Joy.
I appreciate
it's all right.
that.
It's okay. Just breathe.
Ms. Brown, you're up.
Hi, good evening. I had a question. So if we are going back, when will we start to go back to in-person meetings? Because I know you guys miss seeing us.
Yeah, in fact, Dr. B. Coates and I were talking about that. It will probably be a few of us next month.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Dr. B. Coates sort of messed up our plan. Ms. Farber, you're on.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to all the teachers. I realize how much work and hours and sweat and tears they're putting into this teaching our kids, but it is priceless when my daughters leave at 2 p.m. with smiles on their faces. So kudos to all the teachers. They should, I don't know how to ever thank them for what they're doing, but it's just amazing. I do have a question about back to school nights and if there is going to be anything at the schools for parents.
Everything, back to school nights will be virtual, correct?
I mean, are they being scheduled or are they happening at some point?
They are. Each principal is outlining what the back to school night will be and or what's being set up. And I've made a note to follow up with you, and I can also add that to my follow-up item, Ms. Farber.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Ms. Tax, you're up next.
Hello. I mentioned this before, and I don't know if you gave thought to it, about sending the breakfast home with the kids so they don't have to eat in the classroom and we don't have to worry about all those masks being off, etc. Like we send it home with them the night before so they have it for the next day. They can eat it before they get there.
Mr. Cuff, would you like to address that? I'm not sure. Have you had that conversation with Airmark or not?
We had a brief conversation, and some of the models that we looked at would provide sending meals home, but every child would not may not actually participate in that. So, but no, we will take that under consideration and look at it and provide feedback. Thank you.
And then I just have one more thing. Can you explain, so the Wednesday is the asynchronous. So how are kids going to be accounted for being there? They have to just complete the assignments. I wasn't clear on that.
It's the same way. It's the same way that we're doing now, Ms. Tax.
Okay.
So, yep, it's going to be the exact same way.
Okay.
Okay, the Miller family?
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Miller.
Just a quick question. When does the board actually vote on this? Just wondering, because I'm thinking if we wait till next month, it's kind of close to the time that we're going. So just wondering when the board is actually going to vote on this.
Dr. B. Coates?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the board voted tonight.
Oh.
And I believe, am I mistaken? I believe that occurred after I presented the information. Am I correct? No, I see people shaking their heads no. Okay.
We have to make a motion. If we were voting tonight, I didn't know if we were voting tonight on this.
How about if we vote at the Education Committee meeting next week? Would that be okay?
Yes, so for me.
Fine. Yep, that's fine.
Mr. Cuff, you'll make that a voting meeting, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no one else. I'm just looking. If board meetings will begin to go back to back and will begin to go back to in person, will there still be a virtual option from people to watch from home if they choose? Yes, they will, Ms. Ratchford. We will not be going, there is no place in our district that we can socially distance all the adults on this one screen here. That's 15 of us, 16 of us in our district. So a few of us will be going in person and the rest will be on Zoom. It'll be exactly the same as this meeting, except for you won't see my family room anymore. And there's a note, thank you for your time. Park Lane will be sharing a link for parents with back to schools slideshows from each teacher to review. All right. So let me just get to my agenda. Whoop. All right, announcement of future meetings. School Climate Subcommittee, Wednesday, October 7th at 4:30. Education Committee meeting, Wednesday, October 7th at 6:30. Committee of the Whole, 6:30, Monday, October 19th. And the next business meeting of the Board of School Board Directors will be held 6:30, Monday, October 26th. That Education Committee meeting on October 7th will be a voting meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. We started about 2:20. 160 of you hung in till now. It's certainly appreciated. Mask up, wash up. We have no one to waste. Please be safe out there. See you next Wednesday.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.